You are not just another hustling salesperson. You are the expert, the resource, the valuable partner for your clients. And how you grow your business should reflect how your clients see you. Welcome to the Roadmap to Grow Your Business podcast. We generate referrals without asking, build positive client experiences, and help you take control of your business. Here's your charmingly sarcastic host, Stacey Brown Randall.
Hey there, and welcome to episode 166 of the Roadmap to Grow Your Business podcast. I'm your host, Stacey Brown Randall. Okay, before I dive into this very unusual episode, I just want to remind you that we have coming up at the end of this month a live referrals challenge. It's going to be so good, and I want you to be there. Whether you've done a challenge with me before, but you know it's been months or maybe even a year or two, and it's time for a refresh, or you're brand new listening to this podcast or in our community, and you're like, hey, what is this challenge thing? It's only 4 days. I think I can handle that. Sign up to join us. I promise you, I'm going to use an itty-bitty, teeny-meeny part of your day each day for 4 days, and I'm going to give you a great foundation for what you need to know to be able to start generating referrals and get that foundation set and get your mindset set correctly and just be thinking in the right way so that you can get to that referral ninja master level and get, of course, the right referral foundation in place. So you just got to go to stacybrownrandall.com/challenge. That is where you go to sign up. And hey, share that link with anybody, any other business friend that you have, whether it's a business bestie or somebody in your networking group or just somebody you recently met that maybe you're trying to cultivate into a referral source. Like maybe you met somebody and now you're like, oh, I'd love it if they would refer me. Send them to this training and have them do it with you. You guys can be accountability partners for each other. And I promise, right, they'll definitely be thinking about you and referrals by the time the 4-day challenge is over. So invite them to join you for this challenge. Again, stacybrownrandall.com/challenge. The deets are there on that page. But when you sign up, you'll get more information. And then we hit you up on the Sunday night before we start with all the details you need, including a follow-along workbook you can download. And then, of course, all the other information you need to be completely prepared for the week. So again, get yourself signed up, get a business bestie or a networking or a potential referral source or an existing referral source, sign up, get them to join you, let them be your accountability partner. It'll help out a lot when you're getting to the busyness of that Tuesday, Wednesday, and we're on day 2, day 3 of the referral challenge. You will have an accountability partner helping you stay on track. Okay, sometimes I wonder about my own brain and how sometimes I am quite incapable of turning it off from thinking about business. There have been times in my life where I have stopped reading as much because my brain goes into hyper overdrive with ideas and tweaks and solutions and all kinds of things every time I read a different business book. And so a lot of times I'm like, oh my gosh, my brain, I just need to stop. I cannot read, and I cannot have more information come into my head because I'm always surprised at when I can go through something and then somehow relate it back to business. It's actually kind of embarrassing, funny, and awesome all at the same time. When I was telling my husband about this lesson, he was like, you have got to be kidding me. Like when I was telling him about this episode, he was like, you have got to be kidding me. I'm like, no. He was like, that's what you were thinking the whole time we were working in the garden? I'm like, yep. And he was like, oh my goodness. So let me back up. Let me explain. Since my family and I moved into our new home last summer, we have been eyeing these 2 planter boxes that are in front of my office to become a raised vegetable garden. And a few months ago, my husband and my sweet baby girl, my 11-year-old daughter, they planted from seeds cantaloupes, cucumbers, and peppers. So we've been enjoying cucumbers for at least a month or so now at the time of this recording. And no peppers yet, but that's okay. But the cantaloupe have proven to test our extremely limited gardening skills. I will say this is not our first go-round with the vegetable garden, but the last go-round didn't end all that well either, except for the sweet potatoes. I don't know why those went well. So on a recent weekend, Norm and I, that's my husband, Norm and I spent hours, my friends, so many hours, like in the dark, like working so many hours on a Saturday and then doing it again on a Sunday where we're turning on the lights of the car to like flash up against the planter boxes. We spent so many hours and a few trips to the hardware store trying to fix what had become an overgrown mess with our cantaloupes. That's right. So as I was separating vines and digging in the dirt and YouTubing how to freaking grow cantaloupes, I couldn't help but think about how our cantaloupe garden mirrors some really important referral lessons that I wanted to share with you guys. Because as I was digging in the dirt and doing all these different things and crushing up eggshells with my bare hands and putting them in the garden, we also planted some tomato gardens at the same time. That's how long this weekend was for us. And the other bed, we planted some tomato plants. But this is what was coming to mind. And these are 4 lessons I want to teach you that I'm going to relate from a failed cantaloupe garden to referral lessons. Are you ready? I know. Stay with me, guys. I'm going to try to make this as enjoyable as possible. I think it's fabulous. You tell me at the end what you think about this episode. All right. So number 1, we spent hours fixing what we didn't set up correctly. Did you hear what I said in the very beginning when I said that Norm and I spent so many hours separating vines, digging in the dirt, YouTubing how to grow cantaloupes? It wasn't because we did that at the start, right? No, this is when the cantaloupes were growing, right? So if you've ever done a garden, you know you actually need to set it up with the right growth structure in place. So the vines have to have a place to climb because that's what they're going to do as they're cantaloupes, right? Or watermelons or melons or whatever you're doing. Those vines they grow and they go out. And so the vines need to climb vertically. But we didn't set it up correctly for the vines to be able to grow vertically. So they grew and they grew. And they spread and they spilled over the raised bed into the driveway, kind of getting close to where we park our cars. At some point, I'm like, we're going to run over all of them, so what does it matter? And that's when it took us an entire weekend to go in and separate them out, install vertical cages, tie them up, replant some, et cetera, right? Because we had to spend hours fixing what we didn't set up correctly in the beginning. Hours, friends. I lost a whole weekend. I could never get back with this cantaloupe garden. And there's a really big spoiler alert coming up. It didn't go well. Okay. And an experienced gardener knows exactly, based on what I just said, how we sunk ourselves. But here's the referral lesson in this. This isn't about looking back and kicking yourself, right? When you think about time lost for having a referral strategy or tracking the right information. I know I'm kicking myself on all the time we spent with that cantaloupe garden, but that's not what I want for you. This is about starting now with the right strategy for your business. And what I mean by the right strategy is I need you to have 2 plans working simultaneously in your business so that you can get yourself to your deserved referral explosion. Number 1, I need you to have a plan for how you care and nurture additional referrals from your existing referral sources, those who have referred you before. And then I need you to have a second plan for how you're going to care for your potential referral sources. Those are the people who've never referred you, clients and COIs that you wish would refer you. I need you to have a plan for how you're going to cultivate them and deepen a relationship with them to turn them into a referral source by getting that first referral from them. And these are 2 separate plans. And if you set these up correctly and you start tracking referrals received as you move forward, and you have the right tools in your toolbox, right? So you know what to do when a prospect is referred to you, and you understand what to say to plant referral seeds in a networking opportunity, and you understand what it looks like to plant seeds within a client experience as well. And you understand what I talk about when I talk about language and referral seeds. You're like, oh, I know what she's talking about. You're not being like, I have no idea what she's talking about. And you have these 2 plans to care for the people who currently care for your business and maybe one day will care for your business by giving you referrals. You're setting it up correctly. Now, when I talk about the 6 layers of a referral strategy, right, I talk about everybody starts with layer number 1, and that's identifying if you have existing referral sources, because that's the easiest place to start if you want more referrals is to go to the people who've already given you referrals. It is not a slam dunk, though, right? I'm working with a real estate agent right now who's had referral sources, just a handful, about 6 referral sources, but over the years, right, a couple have retired. Right, so they're not working anymore, right? I have another person I'm working with that had some referral sources, and her biggest referral source moved out of state, so not around to refer her anymore, right? So our referral sources change, and so sometimes they aren't able to provide all the referrals we want, but how do you know that unless you've first identified who your existing referral sources are? And then creating a plan to cultivate them, because then you can see is that there the potential to get more referrals from them by cultivating the relationship with them correctly, following the existing referral source plan. that I teach. And then, of course, having a plan, right? So that's where everybody starts. Like, do you have existing referral sources? Let's see if we can get more from them. That's the easiest place to start. Whether you need more referral sources or you don't have any to begin with, then you need the second plan. That's layer number 2, and that's the potential referral sources. And that is important for you to recognize as well. But these are 2 separate plans, and they can run parallel in your business. You do not set them up at the same time. You'll be overwhelmed. You do one and then the other, whichever order you want to go in, right? We teach both in the Growth by Referrals program. But you're going to do both of them and have them executing in your business, which means you're also going to be tracking correctly. It also means that you know how to close the loop with your referral source when they refer you. That allows you to plant additional referral seeds, and you know what to do to close a referred prospect and what to say in a networking opportunity. Like, you need the right strategy so you don't waste time moving forward. Had we built that cantaloupe garden correctly from the beginning, had I YouTubed some of my new favorite people now to watch on YouTube about how to garden in vertical beds. Had I YouTubed those folks in the beginning, I would have built it differently. But we didn't. Not even close. We just planted some seeds, started watering. Oop, look, they're sprouting. Oop, look, they're growing. Oh my gosh, we got baby melons. Oh my gosh, they're all suffocating and killing each other because there's nowhere for them to go. But if we'd started out correctly, we wouldn't have found ourselves in that situation. I just want the same for you with your referral plan. Again, I'm kicking myself over my failed cantaloupe garden. That's not actually what I want from you with your referral strategy. I just want you to be intentional about starting now, finishing 2021 strong in the back half of this year with having the right 2 plans for your business, or only plan number 1 if that's all that matters, and all the tools in your toolbox you need. So that's referral lesson number 1 from a failed cantaloupe garden. Referral lesson number 2 from a failed cantaloupe garden. Do you know that the right fertilizer mix actually takes research? To find the right mix of fertilizer, to make something grow, it actually takes some research. So have you ever heard of worm castings? I don't even know if I'm saying it right. That's how it looks like when on the back, right? But have you ever heard of worm castings? Castings? I don't know, whatever they're called. Well, I had not. Never heard of it before. They are mixed, so it's I don't know. I'm not even going to tell you what it is because I don't understand it. I'm sure it has something to do with worms, obviously, but it's great when you mix it with other parts of a fertilizer to create your soil. So you mix it with your soil and your manure and your crushed eggshells, and then you put it in the worm castings, and it makes this rock-solid, amazing fertilizer planting bed place for your plants to grow, to give them the best start possible, okay? But to know how to plant with success, I had to research it. I had to figure out my growing zone and what grows and what should be going in these beds and what did we forget to start with and what do we need to go back and add. And some things I researched I'd never heard of before. Well, here's the referral lesson in this for you. Finding the right referral strategy for you will take some research. Right? I may say worm casings or whatever, worm castings, and you're like, yes, Stacey, I know exactly what that is. But when I say referral seed, you're like, what the heck is she talking about? Right? Because that means we got to spend some time researching what we don't know. But the most important thing about finding the right referral strategy for your business that you will need to research to figure it out is you got to ask yourself what fits you. What fits your personality? Okay, here's a really funny story that happened to me recently. So I had someone who decided not to join the Growth by Referrals program. And hey, that's cool because it's not for everybody. And I don't want everybody in there if you're not committed. So I had somebody who decided not to join the Growth by Referrals program because he told me he believes he's too old. I'm not going to share his age, but he believes that he's too old to learn new tricks. And I'm using air quotes that you can't see. And I was like, oh, there's nothing tricky about this, but okay, right? So he believes he's too old to learn new tricks. So he is okay with asking people for referrals and getting a few. I believe he literally told me 3 to 4 referrals a year. Like he's like, I'm just too old to learn something new. I'm okay asking for referrals and getting my 3 referrals a year and just doing my thing. Okay. He gets to do him. That is the cool thing about being your own business owner, right? I am not him. So that is not okay for me. That is not an okay strategy for me. But you get to figure out what strategy you want for receiving referrals. What is the right mix for you? What is the right strategy? How do you want to show up to your referral sources? Do you want to always be asking them? Or do you actually want to be a little bit more focused on nurturing and cultivating and planting referral seeds to generate referrals? Either way, it's going to take some level of work. But figuring out what is the right one for you, you may have to do a little bit of research. You may have to pay attention to what the options are and what's taught and how it's taught. You may have to dig in and read and watch videos. And, for me, from that perspective, participate in challenges. Read the entire information page on the Growth by Referrals program at growthbyreferrals.com, whatever that is. But for us to find the right fertilizer for where we are, for what we're attempting to grow, I had to do research. You may have to do a little bit of research to decide what fits you and what you need best for your referral strategy. I hope you don't want to ask. I hope that's why you're here. And I hope what I teach you on this podcast or what you've learned in my challenges or my on-demand trainings or any webinar I've done, or if you've heard me on somebody else's podcast or you've read my book or you've seen me speak on stage, I hope you've picked up anything and everything you've needed in those moments. Or you decide to join one of my paid programs, which is awesome, where I know you'll get everything you need. But I hope you pick up what you need and you put them into practice, and because it fits you. Because you know that you're the type of person who likes this type of strategy because it fits who you are from an authentic perspective and allows you not to ask and all the other things that I teach. But sometimes you got to figure it out and you got to do a little research to get there. You may have to look at other people who teach referrals to realize what you don't want and then realize what you do want. Okay, referral lesson number 3, learned from a failed cantaloupe garden. I found myself during our long weekend digging in the dirt, protective. I mean, crazy protective, like yell at my husband. Sorry, baby. Yell at my husband, crazy protective. Anytime I found a little baby melon, right? Like those that were just starting to sprout, right? They were just starting to come off. They hadn't gotten big enough for you really to see them. And like sometimes he would step near me and I'd be like, look out for the baby. I literally started calling him the baby or the babies when he would get close to me. Or if the kids came out to see what we were doing, I'd be like, don't step on my babies. It's weird. I get it. Like I'm like saying it out loud to you guys recording this and I'm like, they're going to think I'm crazy, but it's truth, right? So when we had a vine that had new growth, like a little new baby melon that was starting to grow, and we were moving it, right? I mean, I was like untangling vines from themselves, right? I had this heightened sensitivity. I was very protective and I was very attentive. And I was making sure I was paying attention to where I stepped and to where I placed them and to how I treated them. Okay, can anybody guess the referral lesson I'm about to make here? Here's your referral lesson. Many times throughout your process of receiving more referrals, you need to cultivate relationships with new referral sources. People who have never referred you before, clients and centers of influence that you wish were referring you and they've never referred you before. And you need to be a little protective over that process. And you need to be a little protective over the people that you decide that are in that process. Your authenticity and your consistency is key. You need to be protective over the potential referral source process, over the plan you'll create. So if you're following it my way, that's the running 5 and keeping warm that we teach in Referring Machines. And of course, you need to be protective over the people in that process as well. The same way I was over my little baby melons, knowing that one day that is a chance for a cantaloupe I'm going to get to eat. You got to be protective because it's fragile. When it's just starting to grow and that little baby melon's just starting to sprout, the same way a new relationship has the potential to form with somebody who may refer you, it's fragile and you got to handle it the right way. This is not bull in a china shop time. This is not come at them and hit them with everything you got and make sure they understand how amazing you are and why they should trust you and why they should refer you. No, 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 no. This is about giving and helping and connecting with the people that you want to refer you. And you got to be protective over that. And you got to be smart about how you show up in those moments. So yes, you certainly don't have to call them your babies like I did with my baby melons, but you do need to be protective over that process. Your authenticity and your consistency and your protectiveness for a very fragile relationship that's starting and how you handle that process, and how you take care of that person is key to whether or not they'll refer you down the road or they won't. Okay, lesson number 4, learned from a failed cantaloupe garden. Pay attention to the web. Okay, now this lesson is a little bit more advanced. So my first 3 lessons were really focused on those of you who are thinking about getting started or just getting started with a referral strategy, right? Set it up correctly, figure out which process or system you want to use, and be protective as you're growing new referral source relationships. That's for those folks that are either just new in the process, getting started, or you're coming back to it after maybe you've been at a break or a pause and you're coming back to it. But you haven't really been focused on referral sources or referrals in a while. But this one is actually more advanced. And this is for the person who is actually following a referral strategy or a referral plan the way that I teach it, whether in my free resources or in my paid program. But I need you to pay attention to the web. So as cantaloupes grow, they have these little tentacles. I looked it up. They're called tendrils. I did not know that, but they're called tendrils. I like to call them the tentacles. That they're really little and they're curly. And they kind of grow out and they're looking for something to grab onto. Typically, they're grabbing onto other vines, right? And they are tough little cookies. Like you can't just snap them. Like you got to actually pull on them a little bit to get them to let go of the vine they're hooked onto. So when you're separating out your vines, it is slow and painstaking. I mean, my back hurt for days. I was bent over all this time, like trying to make these little tendrils, these little tentacles, like let go of the vine that they weren't technically connected to, right? And it's almost like a web. It's like, where does this start? Where does this end, right? As you kind of go through this whole process, is like, okay, wait, is this vine connected to this vine? Oh, wait, these are separate vines. They're only connected by this tendril, by this little tentacle. And what you realize is you could really have a tangled mess of a web depending on your cantaloupe garden, right? But that's obviously not the referral lesson here. Nothing that's a tangled mess. But paying attention to the web and the connection points, those little tentacles, those little tendrils being the connection points within your referrals. So here's what I mean. Here's the referral lesson for you. So this is a concept I don't really talk about. I don't think I've actually ever talked about it on the podcast. But I do talk about it a lot with my VIP GBR students because we have these one-on-one conversations. And we're starting to talk about it more with my inner circle folks as well. But it is how our referral sources make a web. And it's really important to recognize. So I think the best way for me to explain it is to explain it this way. Like, first of all, I'm not talking about like a killer spider web. Like, I'm not talking about that kind of web. It's more like an informative Charlotte's web, like the helpful web, right? The helpful connection points of how things are actually connected together. So the way I talk about this from a GBR perspective is this process called mind mapping. So I don't know if you guys have ever done mind mapping before. There's lots of software out there where you can do mind mapping, or you can sit down with a piece of paper and mind map it yourself. It's actually easier to do through technology because you can move things around versus like having to erase and rewrite it, like on a piece of paper or whatever. But it's software that you can like put a lot of different things on a page and then start connecting them, right? Using the software, connecting things together that need to be connected. And what it allows you to see are ultimate connections. And what I don't think people realize is actually how connected our web of referrals and referral sources are. So if you ever just sit down and you think about, okay, Ellen has referred me X, Y, and Z. And so it's like if I were to put Ellen's name in a circle, right? And then I were to put out a line from Ellen to David, and a line from Ellen to Rick, and a line from Ellen to Kate. Like these are actually real names that this wonderful person, Ellen, who's one of my referral sources, has referred to me. And looking at it from that perspective, right? Oh, and Ellen to Amanda, right? There's another one. I probably am forgetting some. My apologies, Ellen. But who Ellen has referred me to. But then, right, so Ellen's connected to refer me to Amanda, but Amanda has referred me to people. Rick has referred me to people, right? And so it's looking at these connection points as they grow, right? Ellen also referred me to other people. Not all of them have ultimately referred me on, whether they became a client or not. So it's looking at it from this perspective and saying to yourself, wow, Ellen referred me to Amanda, and then Amanda referred me to these 4 people, right? Or whatever it is, right? And paying attention to the connection points there, and then where they start to overlap. And then who knows each other? Because that also helps you tell really great referral stories when you're able to talk about people and who they've referred and who you've been able to help and the success that they've had. Now, of course, you have to do this within the limits of what you're allowed to share from a confidentiality perspective, right? But the reality of knowing that sometimes one referral leads to a client and sometimes it leads to a referral source who's going to refer you to a whole bunch of other people. And if you actually map that out and put it on paper, it's this really, really cool concept. It's not something I actually do for people. I talk about it. It's not, we probably should. I should probably put that on the futures list of something we're going to offer for maybe like our VIP or inner circle folks, is actually doing this for them. But I talk about what it looks like to do this. And ultimately, I think the best thing is to use some kind of mind mapping software or just, any kind of software you can go in and draw, because you need to be able to connect things. Like once you write a bunch of people's names and circles and stuff, you want to then be able to connect them. And then you can kind of just see how your web of referrals and referral sources starts to grow. And I just want you to pay attention to it. Because yes, you probably have somebody who's referring you who doesn't know anybody else that's referring you. But you also have people who are referring you, and those people all know each other. And paying attention to that web and the strength of that part of the web, because this person referred you to this person who referred you to these 5 people. And oh, look, they actually all know each other. That web is important to recognize. That web is important to be able to even bring up in conversation to talk about what that web looks like. It's really important when I'm in conversation with someone, using my example that Ellen's referred me to, that I can say, oh, yes, and she referred me, David and Rick and Amanda, right? I can go through and Kate, right? I can go through the other people that have been referred. And then I can make the connection to, do you know them? Because sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. And that only helps everything about a process grow in those moments. But I want you to pay attention to your web, because a lot of times your referral sources are connected. I've got some great attorneys from a social media perspective. Yep. Hello, Neil and Jordan and Joey. Right. Couple of them are in the program, GBR, some of them aren't. Right. But they are all connected. Actually, it's really funny to me every time somebody like that joins the Growth by Referrals program and they post in the Facebook group. Their welcome post in our special student-only Facebook group gets posted. It's like a reunion. They're like, I didn't know you were in here. Oh my gosh, hi. It's kind of crazy watching them all do that because they all know each other. But it's just paying attention to the web. Right? It's paying attention to, oh, wow, yeah, Neil referred me to Catherine and to Christy. And then Christy referred me to Karen. Like, it's watching the web grow and understanding what that looks like. And then the connection points between your referral sources and the clients that have been referred to you as well. There's just power in knowing that and being able to carry on conversations with people when you're having those with them, whether you're reminding them that they were referred to you and who referred them to you, or like in the case of Neil or Ellen, what they started and how they support me and why I love them, and so many others so dearly. So that's an important thing for you to pay attention to as well. Okay, so those are my 4 lessons. Now, in case you're wondering, in the end, the Cantaloupe Garden, with all of its promise and all those little baby melons that were coming out, well, it failed. Now, if you're a gardener, you know exactly why. And it's because I said it earlier in the episode. The big issue was we actually ended up replanting some of them so that we could actually give them some vertical space to grow. And we moved them in the hot July sun, and it just shocked them too much. And those little babies, they just couldn't survive. So we have like 2 out of like the 10. We have like 2 that maybe will survive. We'll see. But here's the thing, friends. Your referral strategy is not a cantaloupe garden. It is not going to fail. These are just 4 lessons that teach us what to do, what to look out for, really. And so I want you to let me know in our free community how these 4 lessons are good reminders, right? How are these lessons, or just using these lessons as not even lessons, just good reminders, how they're going to work for you. I want you to share it with me. Share your thoughts, please, on this episode in the Referrals Without Asking Facebook group. Start a new post or look for the episode for episode 166. Of course, you can also find links to the Referrals Without Asking Facebook group on our show notes page for this episode, which is stacybrownrandall.com/166. And remember, the live free challenge is coming up in just a matter of weeks, or maybe now days. And you need to sign up to reserve your spot and invite a business bestie or a business associate or someone from your networking group or one of your referral sources or someone that you want to start referring you. Invite them to join you to go through this 4-day challenge. I take an itsy bitsy teeny amount of your time every day and give you some really powerful things to move forward and think about and do differently. And of course, next week is episode 167, and we're talking about what referrals hide. Yep, what referrals hide. Okay, until then, take control and grow your business. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to the Roadmap to Grow Your Business podcast. To access all resources and links mentioned in today's show and to connect with Stacy, head over to www.stacybrownrandall.com.